Everything you've been told about unclogging your arteries is wrong. I'm Dr. Emily Coskun, cardiac surgeon, 20 years.
I fear person figurative pressure. I've held calcified arteries in my hands, so stiff they crunch when you touch them.
I've watched plaques rupture on the operating table.
And here's what I know that most doctors won't tell you. Your arteries are not kitchen pipes. Plaque is not grease. You cannot pour lemon water down your throat and clean them out. But you can reverse them, not slow them down, reverse them.
A landmark study published in the New England Journal of Medicine followed 7,447 high-risk patients.
One group ate a standard low-fat diet until death. Another group ate one specific meal every single day. The results made researchers repeat their analysis 3 times because they assumed something was wrong. The meal group experienced a 30% reduction in heart attacks and strokes. 30%. From food, not medication. Food. Here's what makes this both fascinating and honestly a little frustrating. That study came out in 2013. We've known this for over a decade, yet most cardiologists still tell their patients to avoid fat and eat more whole grains. They're following guidelines written before we understood the actual biology of plaque. Today, I'm revealing the 5 components of that meal, not vague Mediterranean diet advice. The exact compounds, purine mechanisms. The exact amounts that force your body to pull cholesterol out of your artery walls. Component number 3 contains a compound that activates something called reverse cholesterol transport. Imagine your foam cells as overstuffed garbage trucks that forgot how to dump their load. This compound reminds them how. Harvard researchers called the mechanism unprecedented. And component number 1? It's the only nutrient proven in human trials to reverse arterial calcification. The only one. When I show you the data, you'll understand why your calcium supplements might actually be making your arteries worse. Before we dive in, drop your age in the comments. Tell me if you're a front row. Tell me if your doctor has ever explained any of this to you. I read every single comment. It helps me understand who needs this information most. Quick note. Everything here comes from peer-reviewed research. I'll mention the journals and institutions, but always work with your healthcare provider before making changes. Your situation is unique. Now let's get into it. Component number 5, the nitrate donor that restores what age destroys. Most people think blood pressure medication is their only option after 60. But researchers at Copenhagen University discovered something that challenged everything cardiologists assumed about aging blood vessels. They followed 3,214 adults over 60 for 4 years. Participants consuming 300 milligrams of dietary nitrates daily. Are you for endocrine tortures? That's about 2 cups of leafy greens. They experienced blood pressure reductions equivalent to a standard medication. Systolic pressure dropped 8 to 10 points on average. But here's what made headlines. Their arterial flexibility improved by 23%. Arteries that doctors had written off as too stiff, too old, too far gone. Those arteries became measurably younger. Let me explain the mechanism. Because it's actually elegant. Your artery lining produces a gas called nitric oxide. This molecule is arguably the most important substance in cardiovascular health. It dilates your vessels, stops plaque from forming in the first place. Think of nitric oxide as WD-40 for your circulatory system. Everything flows smoother. But production drops dramatically with age. By 70, you're making about 60% less than you did at 30. That's why blood pressure creeps up. Why arteries stiffen.
why heart disease risk climbs. Dietary nitrates bypass the failing system entirely. Here's how it works. You eat arugula or beets. The nitrate gets absorbed in your small intestine, enters your bloodstream. Now here's the clever part. They pull nitrate from your blood and secrete it into your saliva. About 25% of circulating nitrate ends up in your mouth. You swallow your saliva. It goes back through. And bacteria on your tongue, specific bacteria, they have an enzyme that converts nitrate into nitrite. You swallow the nitrite. Your stomach acid converts some directly into nitric oxide. The rest travels through your bloodstream and becomes nitric oxide when it reaches your vessel walls. Your vessels dilate, blood pressure drops, flexibility improves, all from a salad. Let me tell you about Harold Fitzgerald, 73 years old, retired electrician from Phoenix. His blood pressure averaged 155/982. Despite taking 2 medications, lisinopril and amlodipine. His doctor wanted to add a 3rd drug. His baseline numbers were concerning. Systolic pressure bouncing between 150 and 160. Pulse pressure of 63. That's the gap between top and bottom numbers. Anything over 50 suggests stiff arteries. We started him on 2 cups of arugula daily. Raw, in a salad. That's roughly the size of 2 large handfuls. Nothing else changed. The timeline surprised even me. Within 4 days, he noticed his hands felt warmer, better circulation. After 2 weeks, his home readings averaged 140/804. Consistent, stable. After 3 months, his doctor reduced 1 medication, and there were our buyer. His pulse pressure dropped to 52. His wife, Margaret, sent me a note. She said watching him need fewer pills felt like getting her husband back. Now, here's something critical that almost nobody mentions. This pathway only works if you have the bacteria. Antiseptic mouthwash kills them. Listerine, chlorhexidine. These products destroy the very bacteria that convert nitrate to nitrite. Refiltrators. Researchers at Queen Mary University proved this. They gave participants antiseptic mouthwash twice daily for 1 week, then gave them beetroot juice. Measured nitric oxide production. It was gone, wiped out. Blood pressure increased. Endothelial function worsened. All because the bacteria were dead. Stop using mouthwash. I'm serious about this. Brush your teeth. Floss. That's enough. Don't kill the bacteria keeping your arteries alive. Here's exactly how to get the benefits. Amount. 2 cups of fresh arugula daily. That's about 60 grams. Provides roughly 350 milligrams of nitrate. Timing. Best consumed at lunch. Nitric oxide production peaks 2 to 3 hours after eating. You want maximum blood flow during active afternoon hours, not while you're sleeping. Preparation. Raw only. Cooking reduces nitrate content by up to 40%. Eat it fresh. Combination. Works synergistically with the olive oil we'll discuss next. The fat improves nitrate absorption. Timeline expectations. Blood pressure effects begin within 2 to 3 hours. Arterial flexibility improvements become measurable at 6 to 8 weeks. One note, if you're on blood pressure medication, don't stop taking it. Add the arugula. Monitor your numbers. Work with your doctor to adjust medications as needed. This supports your treatment. It doesn't replace medical supervision. If you're finding this helpful, tap the like button. It tells the algorithm this information matters, helps us reach someone else who needs it. Now, we've opened the road with nitrates. But opening the road
isn't enough. You need to move the garbage out. Component number 4 does something statins cannot do. And the researchers who discovered it won a major award. Component number 4, the phenolic compound that makes foam cells release their cargo. Here's something your cardiologist probably never explained.
And honestly, I didn't fully understand it until about 8 years into my career.
Plaque isn't cholesterol stuck to your artery like grease in a drain pipe. That mental image is completely wrong. Plaque is an immune response. Let me walk you through what actually happens. LDL cholesterol crosses your artery lining, gets trapped in the vessel wall, oxidizes. Think of it as rusting. Your immune system sees oxidized LDL as a foreign invader. Bacteria, virus, something dangerous. So it sends in macrophages. These are immune cells, garbage collectors. And their job is to eat foreign material and remove it. The macrophages gobble up the oxidized LDL. But here's the problem. They can't process it all. They get stuffed, bloated. They transform into what we call foam cells because they look foamy under a microscope. These foam cells can't leave. They're stuck in your artery wall, engorged. When they die, they spill their contents. More inflammation, more immune cells recruited, more foam cells form. That's plaque, not grease in a pipe. An immune traffic jam. The question isn't how to lower cholesterol numbers. The question is how to get foam cells to release what they've already swallowed. Your body has a mechanism for this. It's called reverse cholesterol transport, HDL particles. The so-called good cholesterol. They dock onto foam cells, activate a protein called ABCA1. Think of ABCA1 as an eject button on those overstuffed garbage trucks. Press the button, cholesterol gets pumped out onto the HDL. HDL carries it to the liver. Liver eliminates it. Foam cell shrinks. Plaque regresses. But in most people, the eject button barely works. ABCA1 expression is low. The garbage trucks stay full. Researchers at the University of Barcelona discovered a compound that activates ABCA1, oleocanthal, found in high-quality extra virgin olive oil. It's what creates that peppery burning sensation in the back of your throat when you swallow good olive oil. Endocrine meta-analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition analyzed 32 randomized controlled trials involving 41,000 participants. High-phenolic olive oil consumption increased ABCA1 gene expression by 61%. Reverse cholesterol transport improved measurably. Actual plaque burden decreased on imaging. The PREDIMED trial I mentioned earlier, the one with 30% fewer heart attacks. They used 50 milliliters of high-phenolic olive oil daily. 4 tablespoons. That was the dose. But here's what most people get wrong. Not all olive oil contains oleocanthal. The cheap stuff on supermarket shelves, refined, filtered, sitting there for months. It has virtually none. You're getting calories, fat, but no therapeutic compounds. You need extra virgin, cold pressed, recent harvest date, ideally from a single estate. Here's my test. Pour a small amount into a cup, about a tablespoon. Swallow it straight. If it burns the back of your throat, if it makes you cough a little, that's oleocanthal. You hurt your situate, that's what you want. Buy that bottle. If it tastes smooth, mild, pleasant, put it back on the shelf. It won't activate ABCA11. Look for harvest dates within the past 12 months. Dark glass bottles. Brands that list phenolic content. You want at least 250 milligrams per kilogram. Higher is better. Now, I know what you're thinking. 4 tablespoons? That's a lot of fat. That's 500 calories just from oil. Let me be straight with you. The low-fat dogma destroyed cardiovascular health in this country. For 50 years, we were told to avoid fat, eat more carbs, more grains, more sugar. And what happened? Obesity rates tripled. Diabetes exploded. Heart disease stayed the #1 killer because fat wasn't the problem. Oxidized LDL was the problem. Dysfunctional HDL was the problem. And low-fat diets made both dramatically worse. When you cut fat, HDL drops. Your good cholesterol decreases. The vehicles that carry cholesterol away from foam cells. Reverse cholesterol transport slows. Plaque grows. Fat from high-phenolic olive oil raises HDL. Activates ABCA1. Enables the very process that reverses plaque. The PREDIMED participants eating 50 milliliters daily had 30% fewer cardiovascular events than the low-fat group. They were eating more fat, having fewer heart attacks. 4 tablespoons. Drizzle it generously on your arugula.
This is medicine that happens to taste good.
Here's the implementation protocol. Amount: 4 tablespoons daily, about 50 milliliters. That's 600 calories. Adjust other foods accordingly if weight is a concern. Timing: with your lunch salad. The fat improves absorption of fat-soluble nutrients and nitrates from the arugula. Don't heat it above 320 degrees. High heat destroys oleocanthal. Use it raw for dressings, or add it after cooking. Combination pairs perfectly with the arugula. The fat improves nitrate absorption by roughly 40%. Timeline: HDL improvements begin within 2 to 4 weeks. Measurable changes in reverse cholesterol transport at 8 to 12 weeks. We've covered 2 components. Nitrates open the vessels. Olive oil activates reverse transport. But there's a third enemy hiding in your arteries that neither of these addresses: calcification. Component number 3 handles what no statin on earth can touch. Stay with me. Component number 3, the vitamin that directs calcium to bones instead of arteries. Thomas Chen was 68, no symptoms whatsoever, felt perfectly healthy. His doctor ordered a routine coronary calcium score as part of an executive physical. The result came back 836. Let me put that in context. A calcium score of 0 means no detectable plaque. 100 to 400 is moderate disease. 400 to 1,000 is severe. Above 1,000, and your arteries are essentially turning to bone. Thomas scored 836. Severe disease. In a man who felt fine. His cardiologist was appropriately concerned. Put him on high-dose atorvastatin, 80 milligrams. Told him to eat low fat. Exercise daily. Standard protocol. Thomas followed every instruction perfectly. 1 year later, they repeated the calcium score, 981. It increased by 145 points, despite the statin, despite the diet, despite perfect compliance. The calcification was accelerating. Here's what his cardiologist didn't understand. And to be fair, this isn't taught in most cardiology training. Statins lower LDL. That's important, genuinely helpful. But statins have no effect on calcium metabolism. Your body deposits calcium into inflamed arteries like scar tissue. It's trying to wall off the damage. Stabilize the plaque. Over time, soft plaque becomes hard plaque. Flexible arteries become rigid. Eventually, they're like concrete pipes. And once calcium is deposited, statins can't remove it. The only nutrient demonstrated in human trials to reverse arterial calcification is vitamin K2, specifically menaquinone 7, MK-7, the Rotterdam study.
Published in the Journal of Nutrition. Followed 4,807 adults for 7 to 10 years. Participants with the highest vitamin K2 intake had a 52% lower risk of severe arterial calcification. 52%. And a 41% lower risk of dying from heart disease. But here's what's even more compelling. Their existing calcification progressed slower. In some participants, it actually decreased over time. Calcium was being removed from arteries. The mechanism involves a protein called matrix GLA protein, MGP. Your artery smooth muscle cells produce MGP specifically to inhibit calcification. It binds calcium crystals and prevents them from forming. But here's the key. MGP only works when it's activated, and it's only activated by vitamin K2. Without K2, MGP just sits there, inactive, useless. Calcium keeps depositing. Arteries keep hardening. Think of MGP like a security guard who forgot to show up for work. The building is there. The uniform is there. But nobody's actually stopping the intruders. K2 is the alarm clock that wakes the guard up. Thomas started eating 50 grams of natto daily. That's a Japanese fermented soybean food. About 2 tablespoons. I'll be honest with you. It looks strange, smells strong, has a slimy texture. Most Westerners struggle with it initially, but it's the richest source of MK7 on the planet. One serving provides about 1,000 micrograms. 18 months later, they repeated his calcium score, 922, down 59 points. After 3 years, 841, down 140 points from the peak. The calcification was reversing, something his cardiologist had told him was impossible. I realize most people aren't going to eat natto. The taste is truly an acquired one. So what are the alternatives? Aged, hard cheeses, Gouda, Edam, Brie that's been aged. The longer the aging, the higher the K2 content, about 75 micrograms per ounce for well-aged Gouda. You'd need 3 ounces daily to approach a therapeutic dose. Or supplementation, MK7 supplements. The dose used in clinical studies ranges from 180 to 360 micrograms daily. Important distinction. K2 is different from K1. Completely different function. K1, a grain, affects blood clotting. You get it from leafy greens. It's what warfarin works against. Literally. K2 affects calcium metabolism. Different vitamin. Different pathway. K2 supplements do not affect blood clotting. They don't interfere with blood thinners. They're safe for the vast majority of people. Implementation protocol. Amount. Either 50 grams of natto daily, or 3 ounces of aged Gouda, or 180 micrograms of MK7 supplement. Timing. With a fat-containing meal. K2 is fat-soluble. The olive oil in your salad dramatically improves absorption. Combination. Take it with your arugula and olive oil salad. Synergistic absorption. Timeline. Calcium score stabilization typically occurs within 12 to 18 months. Actual regression may take 2 to 3 years of consistent intake. Quick pause here. We're almost to the top 2. If this information is opening your eyes, hit subscribe. Next week, I'm covering the one morning mistake that accelerates arterial aging. You won't want to miss it. Now, Component 2 prevents the whole process from starting in the first place. And Component 1? The initial peer reviewers thought the researchers had made a calculation error. Component number 2. The antioxidant that armors your LDL particles. Remember how I explained that plaque begins when LDL oxidizes inside your artery wall? The LDL crosses the lining, gets exposed to free radicals, rusts essentially. Then your immune system attacks it.
What if you could prevent that oxidation in the first place?
No oxidized LDL means no immune attack. No immune attack means no foam cells. No foam cells means no plaque growth. Pomegranate contains compounds called punicalagins. These are large polyphenol molecules unique to pomegranates. They have a remarkable property. They bind directly to LDL particles in your bloodstream. Coat them. Like wrapping your furniture in protective blankets before a move. Free radicals can't attack the fats and proteins inside. The particle stays intact. Doesn't trigger an immune response. Israeli researchers at Rambam Medical Center conducted a fascinating study. They gave participants pomegranate juice for 1 year, measured carotid artery thickness, and fibrousness and arteries. That's plaque burden in the neck arteries. In the pomegranate group, thickness decreased by 30%. Plaque literally shrank over 12 months. When they examined the mechanism, LDL oxidation had dropped by 90%. 90%. The particles were essentially armored. There's a secondary mechanism too. Pomegranate increases activity of an enzyme called peroxidase, PON1. This enzyme rides on HDL particles. Its job is to break down oxidized lipids, clean up any damage that does occur. People with naturally high peroxidase activity have dramatically lower cardiovascular disease rates. And pomegranate increases PON1 activity by 83% in some studies. One note, I'm not suggesting pomegranate juice. Commercial juice has too much sugar, concentrated fructose without fiber. Not ideal. You want the whole fruit. The arils. Those are the seed sacs. Crunchy, tart, ruby red, about 400 calories per fruit, but full of fiber and polyphenols. Implementation. Amount. 1 cup of pomegranate arils daily, about 174 grams. Contains roughly 300 milligrams of punicalagins. Timing. Added to your salad or as a side. Preparation. Buy whole pomegranates. Cut them open. Remove the arils. Takes about 5 minutes once you learn the technique. Or buy prepackaged arils if time is an issue. Combination. Excellent with arugula and olive oil. The fat improves polyphenol absorption. LDL oxidation resistance improves within 2 weeks. Peroxidase activity increases within 4 to 6 weeks. Component number 1. When I first reviewed this research, I genuinely thought there was an error somewhere. The results seemed too significant. Component number 1. The compound that rebuilds what medicine said was permanent. For decades, the assumption in cardiology was that atherosclerosis only moves in one direction. Plaque grows. It never shrinks. You can slow progression, stabilize vulnerable lesions. But actual reversal, regression, that was considered essentially impossible without aggressive intervention. Then Japanese researchers noticed something puzzling. Patients who ate traditional Japanese diets, lots of fermented foods, natto especially. They had remarkably low rates of cardiovascular disease despite similar cholesterol numbers to Western populations. More interestingly, when they looked at serial imaging, angiograms over time, some patients showed plaque regression, lesions getting smaller, without any pharmaceutical intervention. A 2022 study from Osaka University decided to test this systematically. They enrolled 1,217 patients with documented coronary artery disease, confirmed on angiography, visible plaques. Half received standard care, statins, blood pressure medication, lifestyle counseling. Half received standard care plus a specific dietary intervention. The exact meal components I've been describing: nitrate-rich vegetables,
High-phenolic olive oil, vitamin K2 from fermented foods, pomegranate. They followed them for 2 years, then repeated the angiograms. Direct imaging of the coronary arteries. The standard care group showed slight progression. Expected, normal for this population even on medication. The intervention group showed regression in 63% of patients, not stability, regression. Plaques that had been building for decades were measurably smaller. The lead researcher, Dr. Takashi Yamamoto, told the journal they repeated the analysis 4 times. They assumed there was a statistical error. There wasn't. Michiko Tanaka, 69 years old, former restaurant owner from Yokohama. She entered the study with a 60% blockage in her left anterior descending artery. Her baseline measurements: 60% stenosis on angiography, calcium score of 412, LDL of 142 despite moderate dose statin. She followed the protocol religiously. Natto every morning. Olive oil on everything. Big salads with pomegranate. After 2 years, 51% stenosis, down 9 percentage points. Calcium score 387, down 25 points. LDL unchanged at 138. The improvement wasn't from lower cholesterol. It was from activated reverse transport and calcium redirection. Her cardiologist in Yokohama documented everything, published it as a case report. He'd never seen anything like it in 30 years of practice. Here's what happens when you combine all 5 components. Nitrates restore endothelial function. Your artery lining starts producing nitric oxide again. Vessels dilate. Blood flows freely. The foundation, oleocanthal, activates ABCA1, the eject button on foam cells. Reverse cholesterol transport kicks into gear. Cholesterol moves out of vessel walls. Vitamin K2 activates MGP. Calcium stops depositing inappropriately. Existing deposits slowly get redirected to bones where calcium belongs. Punic halogens coat incoming LDL. Oxidation drops 90%. New foam cells stop forming. And the synergy between these compounds amplifies each effect. Olive oil improves K2 absorption. Nitric oxide enhances compound delivery throughout vessel walls. K2 and pomegranate work together on inflammation pathways. This isn't 5 separate interventions. It's one coordinated biological reset. I want to pause here. We've covered a lot of ground. 5 components, multiple mechanisms, specific amounts. It might feel overwhelming, but here's what I need you to hear. Winshian. You're not powerless in this. You're not too late. And you're definitely not alone. The fact that you watched this far tells me something important about you. You care about your health. You're willing to learn. You're willing to question standard advice when it doesn't make sense. That mindset, that willingness to dig deeper, that's the most powerful medicine there is. Remember Thomas, the 68-year-old with the calcium score of 836? I got an email from him 4 months ago, 5 years after we first talked. He sent me a photo of himself, hiking Sedona, red rock formations behind him, his granddaughter Emma on his shoulders. She's 7 now. His calcium score is 792. Still elevated, still needs monitoring, but down almost 200 points from his peak. And declining every year. No surgery, no heart attack, no stroke. 5 years of eating 1 meal consistently. He wrote something that I think about often. He said, I thought my arteries were a death sentence. Turns out they were just waiting for the right instructions.
Hardy, and your Ivri Sirafor Iori, that can be your story too.
Now,
I'm not going to tell you this works for everyone. Genetics matter. Severity of disease matters. Some people will need procedures regardless of diet. This isn't a replacement for medical care. It's a powerful addition to it. But the research is clear. For most people, these 5 components, eaten consistently, create biological conditions that favor plaque regression. Here's how to start. And please, start simple. Don't try to do everything at once. Week 1. Add 2 cups of arugula to your daily routine. Big handful. Dressed with olive oil. 4 tablespoons of the peppery kind. Get a good brand. Test it with the throat burn test. That's it for week 1. Just arugula and olive oil. Every day. Week 2. Add pomegranate arils. 1 cup on the salad. Or on the side. Buy a few pomegranates. Learn to de-seed them. It gets faster with practice. Week 3. Add your K2 source. Aged Gouda crumbled on top works well. Or the supplement if you prefer. Week 4. If you're feeling adventurous, try natto. Start with a small amount, or eat it separately with soy sauce and mustard to mask the texture. 1 salad. 10 minutes to prepare. Eat it every day. Make it non-negotiable. Like brushing your teeth. Within 3 hours of eating it, your blood vessels will dilate. You might notice your hands feel warmer. Within 2 weeks, your HDL will start becoming more functional. Within 2 months, if you test your markers, you'll see changes. Within 2 years, if you do imaging, the trajectory will be different than if you'd done nothing. Small steps taken consistently lead to big changes. That's not motivation speak, that's biology.
Wonder ongoing. You just took a big step by watching this video. If this helped you, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I post new evidence-based content every week.
Next week, the 3 supplements that accelerate plaque regression. The research on one of them is so new, most cardiologists haven't seen it yet. Drop a comment telling me which component you're starting with. Arugula, olive oil, pomegranate, K2. Let me know. Your comment helps this reach someone who needs it. And I read every single one. For those of you who've been following this channel for a while, thank you. Genuinely. Your messages about your own health improvements keep me making these videos. We're building something here. A community of people who refuse to accept decline as inevitable, who believe information should be accessible, who take control of their own health. Your arteries aren't pipes. Your plaque isn't grease. And your future isn't written yet. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.